My name is Drew Curry. I work for Spokane County United Way, and this is the campaign coordinator training today. We'll cover a lot of grounds, but we'll also send the information to you guys afterwards, and we also will have a recording of this video. This is obviously a kind of a different year, but I do think that there's a lot of benefits in this year and how we'll be able to interact with potential donors and returning donors. So I do appreciate you guys being able to jump on this today and actually be the people within your organizations to be able to prompt individuals and give them the opportunity to give, because I personally believe that if people aren't asked, then everyone really wants to support something. And your guys' role is not just to support United Way, but our community as a whole, by being able to ask individuals and give them the opportunity to be able to support through the United Way network or support other individuals. So we really do appreciate it. We hope that you actually learn quite a bit as well, not just about the nonprofit sector, but also learn job skills that at the end of it, I mean, asking people for money is not awesome. And it's uncomfortable at first, but once you kind of realize that you're not necessarily the tax man and you're actually being able to ask people and give them the chance to be able to really support some really awesome things. But with that being said, I have a timer on my phone because I tend to talk too much and it's going to shock me when I stop or should stop. But Andre, if you wouldn't mind kicking it off, and I'm going to introduce Tim Hinkle, our president. He's been with United Way, I think, about 11 years in Spokane County, and then with United Way, another 600 years in different locations. But Tim, I'll hand it off to you.
Yeah, yeah. And everybody, can you see how old I really am? And so I will just give you a little bit of trivia. Is actually today is 13 years with this United Way here in Spokane.
Oh, congrats.
So, yeah. So anyway, and I don't know, what is it, 38 altogether rather than 600. So let me just jump into this for you, because this is something that I just want to say thanks for your time here and for who you are and what you're doing. I'm gonna, I think, jump to this next slide here on all this around our mission statement. And I'm just gonna very quickly, you can see this, it's about mobilizing the community to create measurable results that improve people's lives. Now, mission statements are always pretty lofty, and in this case, even kind of general, but we did try to take some time and think about this in terms of how can we create this idea of action and have that kind of an orientation in a lofty mission statement. And as Drew's already mentioned here for you, is that one of our things working with you is that we're asking for your help, and we're asking for your leadership to encourage your colleagues and to inspire them to make a contribution. Now that, as he's lifted up, and I agree and have experienced firsthand, is that can be pretty daunting. But it kind of comes back to this idea of what is it that we can do together to improve people's lives in this community. And I'm going to just tell you a very quick story from actually a meeting that I participated in this morning with some of the community partners that you and I helped fund with our gift to United Way. And some of our team members and facilitated a meeting with our early learning partners, some of the organizations that we provide funding for to provide assistance and resources to improve early learning outcomes. And so the staff will know this, is I'm a little bit of a numbers guy, so I'm going to throw a number out here for you. And that's so that one of the metrics that this community, the state, uses to identify kindergarten preparedness is that there are 6 different domains, and I won't get into all the details around that, but those are measured on an annual basis across the school districts across the state. And I can tell you in Spokane County, countywide, that 55% of the kids going into kindergarten, as measured by the statewide test, were ready in all 6 domains. Well, the organizations that you and I are funding are also looking at that kind of information and working with these kids and their families to improve their life outcomes. Back to this mission. Excuse me. I can tell you that of those organizations that you and I are funding is that 68% of those kids were ready for kindergarten when they entered that. And one of the other things that came up out of that conversation today is that one of the things that these organizations truly appreciate and need is that the funding that they receive from United Way is really flexible for them. And it allows them to do some things that other funding streams that they receive are much more restrictive and prevent them, or at least preclude them from doing some really critical things in order to improve these kids' lives and also work with their families. So that's a real important part of what you and I are accomplishing as a result of the work that we're doing here together. So the other thing that really came out of this conversation this morning was how these individuals and how we're working to connect them together. We all end up kind of working in our own little spaces, but the point here is that we've got this shared vision of improving these life outcomes, and in this particular case, making sure that these kids are ready for kindergarten as they walk into the door. And so what kinds of things could we do and bring them together to learn together, to identify some shared outcomes and learn from one another? So that's the other value that you and I are creating as a result of that. So again, back to the mission about improving lives, is that this isn't just about one agency that we're funding or one program that we're funding. The idea here is that we're improving lives by coordinating and connecting and learning with one another and improving and candidly challenging the ways in which we've done things. And so the pandemic that we have been thrust into has literally proven that we've got to do things differently, think differently, act differently, but most importantly, really work together. And so I appreciate the time that you're taking here with us, one, to learn how to reach out, share some stories with your colleagues, but really it's throughout the year and how we can be a partner with you and others to make a difference and impact. So one of the things I want to transition you to is a little bit of hopefully inspiration, a video from the National Youth Poet Laureate that wrote a poem about how United Way is impacting the community. So we'll move from there, and thanks for who you are and what you're doing.
It's hard to hope, hard to cope with crisis.
But while we might be all alone, we've never been more tightly tethered, because we'll only weather this unknown
Together.
So we get to work. We mend, we don't break even when we bend. Somewhere, another mom pays her bills. Somewhere, another child eats his fill. We are the world's neighbors, making our communities brighter, greater, fighting for every person in the neighborhood. We, the coming of the common good, so dare to care, to be hope-sighted. We're never divided, for when we live to give, we always live united.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing about the mission, Tim, and for introducing us, Drew. I know many of these faces here today probably recognize each other, but for someone like me, I am very new. I'm in my 4th week at United Way as a resource development manager. We're going to talk today about the steps to running a successful digital campaign. Now, I don't want you to think that we're recreating the wheel here. There are certainly adjustments you can make to the steps that you have been taking already. So as we think about how you prepare for your campaign initially, the first thing you're going to want to do is schedule a Zoom meeting with your United Way representative. During that, we can spend 30 minutes talking about however much information you want from Spokane County United Way, our involvement in the community, and then how we can help you tailor your campaign to your specific needs. After you meet with us, you would also want to meet with your CEO just to ensure that they are still behind supporting the campaign, they buy into your thoughts and ideas, and they might have some suggestions of their own as well. Another recommendation we're going to make is to assemble a campaign team so you don't have to do it all alone. A great practice here is to assemble your campaign team from different departments so that there's a little bit of touch throughout the company. Once you set your campaign dates, you will work with your United Way contact to set up the online donation portal, which is something new that we're offering. And as so many people are working from home, they might not have access to getting those paper pledge forms that we have in the times past. So what you'll see here is a workplace giving page with other companies that are in active campaigns. Once you click on one, you will see the option for a payroll deduction form or for one-time credit and debit gifts. You can also set recurring amounts to come from your accounts. We can customize this page entirely to your needs. So if somebody does want to do the payroll deduction form, they would just come in here, click this, and they can choose one of the existing payroll deduction options, or they can set up another amount. Now, if you only get paid once a month, for example, if you're working in the school district, we can customize this to be 12 pay periods, or if you're paid twice a month, we can have it be 24 pay periods as well. So it's completely customizable to your needs. Andre, if you would switch us back to the PowerPoint, that would be great. Thank you. Another great tool that we're offering this year is Text to Give. And so with that, your company would, or your employees would be able to text your company name to 313131. If you would like to see a demo of that, you can text UW to 313131. And what that does is send a link out as a response, and then it will take the person to an online page set up for you. And so again, that's another page that we can customize to your needs. You'll want to set a campaign goal that everybody can rally behind. I think this is going to be a great year. I would, just like what Drew said earlier, people are wanting to give. So many people in our community have been impacted by what's happened lately, and I think people are wanting to support. It's also a good idea to think about some of your campaign messaging in advance when you want to send the emails. If you want to have the CEO send the initial kickoff email, you want to be very communicative, but you don't want to inundate people with too many emails. During the campaign, set virtual meetings. You can connect with your United Way contact, and we can either show up if you are able to still do a traditional kickoff campaign at your location, or we can join your team virtually through Zoom, Teams, or any other preferred method, or we can pre-record a video talking about United Way and we can send it over to you. Another great thing that our team is working on is interviewing our agency partners, talking about their businesses and how they've changed during COVID, as well as how the community can really rally behind them during this time. So if you're used to the traditional kickoff campaigns where we bring in a partner agency with us, we still have the ability to work with you on that. Keep the campaign alive, send out messaging, share your success stories. Pictures are awesome. A great way to encourage collaboration and participation is to run team challenges. For example, the team with the highest percentage rate gets lunch with the CEO. Also, make sure to use your campaign team members. That helps keep the campaign in the front of everyone's minds. Personal asks are great. Your United Way contact can send you the list of the previous year's donors so that you can go in and find out who has already donated and compare that to who hasn't that did last year. Finally, after the campaign, you're going to want to calculate the results. Now, it may that be that you're still running that traditional campaign with the paper pledge forms. You're going to want to give copies of all that to your payroll department. If not, if you instead opt to do it electronically, like I showed you earlier, your United Way contact can send you reports throughout your campaign to let you know actively how many people have given and what the totals are. Any corporate contribution or employee match, you're going to want to make sure you follow up on that and then connect with your United Way contact at the end. And finally, I would say the most important part of fundraising for me is think, think, think. So you want to thank your campaign team, you want to thank your leadership team, you want to thank all of your donors. Now that could be a celebration event, or it could be a letter or email from your CEO. Just remember to thank everybody and celebrate your results, because you're really making a difference in our community. So I know I've just given you a ton of information. One easy slide that helps break it down here is called Make It Social. So you want your digital campaigns to be short and sweet. You want to keep them to 2 weeks. People can get inundated. You lose momentum if you're sending out too many emails over too long a time period. You want to clearly state your goals. Share that information with people. Communicate, like we said earlier, communication is going to be key here. You're missing a lot of the informal conversations you would be having in the offices with people. So make sure you send out pictures, stories. Impact equations were really always successful for me when I was running campaigns at my company. $1 a check provides a free tax preparation appointment. We do have a tax calculator or an impact calculator on our website that will share some of that information with you. I'm happy to send that to you if you need it. Accelerate success with games. I won't delve too far into this because Drew does have a great document he's going to share here in a few minutes. But prizes, trivia, raffles, these are all fun ways for your staff to get involved. And as I mentioned earlier, live updates on goal progression. If you hit 50% participation in the first 2 days, send that out, celebrate that. Okay, brain break for a second. Let's do a trivia question, and you can drop these questions or the answers in the chat. There is a raffle for whoever gets closest here. You will run a $50 gift card to your favorite restaurant. So our question, in partnership with GSI, Spokane County United Way distributed PPE to the Spokane County small businesses and nonprofits at the fairgrounds earlier this year. How many cars did we see? We have a lot of answers here.
I think Walter wins.
I think so far LaDonna is probably the closest. Do you see anyone else closer, Drew?
I didn't.
Okay, so the answer is 3,000. And LaDonna was the closest with 2,000 as a guess. So LaDonna, we will connect with you after and get you that gift card to your favorite restaurant. And with that, I'm going to kick it over to Drew, who's going to talk a little bit about best practices.
Man, Amanda's been here for 4 weeks, and I've been at United Way for 2 years, and she's already better than me. So, but yeah, thank you guys again for joining. I'm going to go over a couple best practices, and I'm actually going to set a timer to myself so I don't go long. But we've had a couple campaigns that go this year, and you're actually going to hear from them later today. But one thing overall that I want to mention to people is that in this kind of virtual landscape, we're missing a lot of the informal connection that we're able to have with individuals, meaning typically if we're at a company and we're being able to talk to everyone right after that, there's kind of a break and when the session's ended and you're kind of talking informally with individuals, 3 to 4 people maybe. And during that time is really impactful because there's a lot of questions, because hopefully something during a quick kickoff or a meeting has triggered something in them internally that they're interested in trying to support. I truly do believe that the majority of people that we interact with want to give back in some way. And your role within your companies is to be able to provide that platform to them and help actually try and ignite that within them. You're not asking for them for their mortgage. You're not asking them for, anything crazy. What you're asking them is that I have this opportunity for you to be able to support individual company or individual nonprofits, or the United Way network here in Spokane, and really make a change within our community that is extremely needed right now. But kind of getting back on base, as I've already wasted a minute of my time, the kickoff, having a kickoff is really, really great. It helps kind of get a little energy behind a couple weeks of giving that if your campaign's running for 2 weeks. I'm going to actually kind of pick on STCU's campaign because they've run a really successful campaign, but they have a kickoff that includes their CEO. And the CEO is able to speak on what it means to support nonprofits, United Way, and how they can help out with. And so I think it's really impactful that if people have this idea that there's 2 weeks this event is happening, and that they're able to be a part of this kind of bigger thing outside of the regular workday. Communications, we'd love for coordinate outgoing communications and to not be annoying, essentially. There's more communication that has to happen in this virtual world. You might have to do personal emails to individuals that maybe were previous donors that didn't necessarily donate this year. A lot of times we find that people, and this sounds kind of lame, but it's so true, people don't give because they weren't asked. And if you don't make that ask to the individuals, then they might forget about it, but they actually do want to give. You want to promote the corporate match or corporate gifts to increase contributions. You also want to have your campaign committee make those individual asks that I was talking about. I don't know if you guys can always set up Zoom meetings, but a quick phone call in this day and age is kind of nice. And just ask them, hey, are you looking at supporting the nonprofit sector this year? Move to the next one. It's a good thing is to add incentives. So STCU last year, they actually were able, if people were able to buy basically a PTO, paid day off, if they were going to give $300 or more. It was the first time they've ever done it. And not all companies can do that, but I'm using this as an example that they were able to double their campaign to make a huge difference because individuals saw that there was an incentive in giving. An incentive might be that first gateway into people supporting more throughout their life. It might be that first thing that kind of gets them in, and it becomes their kind of each year they really want to support and help out with kind of the nonprofit sector. The completed pledge forms, Costco, for example, they have every individual at that company complete a pledge form, even if it's zero. They just want to make sure people have the opportunity and it doesn't get missed through the noise that we see every day in work. Also, find, create virtual events. And part of that is a slide that I'll show to you guys later, but in these events, it could be kind of a question and answer with the CEO, or the lunch with the CEO, or lunch with your boss, or some type of event that you can come up with. And there's hundreds and hundreds of ideas that we can share with you and talk kind of outside of this training. And some of the examples are down here. This is a really awesome document that we found from another United Way, or Amanda found. I'm actually going to click and see if we can get it. In here, we'll give you a ton of different options and the different kind of categories that they lie in. It's a really, really, really awesome event. It gives you a lot of great ideas. There's a lot of different virtual options out there outside of what's on this paper. And I ask you to be creative. I think 30 minutes is about as strong as, or about as good as a time as we can do. I think once you get really past that for individuals and employees, it's a little bit too long. So doing a quick 30-minute activity with an ask at the end that says, hey, reminder, if you guys would like to, we have the ability to donate through payroll deduction, set up on the website. You can support the community there. Andre, would you mind switching back? Recognition and thanks. These are essential in campaigns, because as individuals give, we want to make sure that they're valued for what they did give. And by saying thank you as much as you can individually and as much as your job time allows is a really, really, really strong thing. Because that could make that person an advocate to be able to talk to someone else within the company. So thanking is not just giving them thanks, it's also creating someone that could be a lifetime donor. We have a lot of messaging that you guys can use throughout the whole campaign, what includes a lot of different information, and that we'll send to you guys after this. Send personal thank you notes to each of your campaign committee members. We want them to be able to have a good experience, because if your job is not necessarily interacting with others within your company, this could be a really valuable experience for you to be able to interact with others within your organization, interact with your CEO so that you have a stronger relationship with them, get to know others within your company. Highlight givers of a certain level on team call or monthly e-newsletter. Also increasing. You could just highlight all the people within your organization that have increased. If possible, host an event for donors who give at a certain level, or just give or host an event for all donors. Maybe it's they get off early on Friday, and all of these things will probably need to be passed by your CEO. And publicize the results and reiterate the impact of gifts via your company newsletter, email, or intranet. I think it is really important to let the campaign or let the company know what that you guys did as a whole, because the impact that you do if you raise $50,000 within your organization is multiplied through the United Way network and does so much within our community. And it's a really powerful tool for people to understand that we made a difference together, not just my individual gift of $300, but through our company, we have actually moved the needle within our community by helping out people, some of our most vulnerable populations. So trivia question, and then we'll answer this in the chat. And Jan, I think you're discredited from this since you probably know, but how many nonprofit partners does Spokane County United Way invest in? I'll give you guys 30 seconds. All right. Well, all of you guys are really awesome for saying such high numbers, and I wish that was it, but it's actually 37 nonprofit partners, and we support them $1.15 million with it annually. So it is a big number. There is about, I think, 400 some nonprofits within Spokane, and but yeah, 37 nonprofit partners and $1.15 million. But next, I want to introduce actually Premera. Premera ran their campaign this summer and had a really successful all virtual campaign. Debbie Haskins has been working for Premera for, I think, a number of years. And Lisa Matson, obviously, she had mentioned that earlier. But their campaign was very successful, and I'd love for you guys to be able to hear them. So Debbie or Lisa, why don't you guys take it away?
Thanks, Drew. Do we forward the slides ourselves, or do we just ask?
Andre's going to be able to do it, so you can just say next slide.
Thank you. Thank you. I was actually going to guess 37 agencies. And I thought, no, you're going to sound really stupid. You should know better. So anyway, thanks for having us here. We went home in early March this year, and the last thing we were thinking about, well, we did think about it before we went home, but the last thing we thought about once we did go home was, will there be a campaign? And our social impact team needed to make that decision while we navigated through all the new changes that we were all experiencing. So literally like 5 days before, we said, okay, we can do this on June 8th. 5 days before that, social impact called us and said, it's a go. Now what? Next slide, please. So we had to put it together. We knew it was going to be virtual. We had to think about things like, we didn't know how it was going to turn out. We thought contributions would be extremely low because of the times that we were experiencing. And we thought up to 50% of our employees might be in the same situation that everybody else in our community and world was, maybe only half the income, that they were bringing in at that time. So we thought, we really thought the amount we would bring in would be very low, very minimal. So we knew we had to do it all virtually. That meant no online auctions, no agency fair, none of the fun, things that we would do on campus during a 2-week period usually. Payroll, PTO pledging, one-time donations, that was going to be it. And because of the challenges that we saw in front of us, we said, okay, this year we're not going to set 10 goals like we normally set for different areas of business and stuff. We're not going to set goals. We're just going to be appreciative of whatever we can collect. But we did say we would track participation in the form of attending some of our virtual events. And we would track funds raised, of course. Next slide. So sorry, go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, and then so given those challenges that Debbie shared with us, we were able to, we decided rather than running our Mount Lake Terrace campaign and our Spokane campaign separately, but at the same time, which we've done in the past because we were able to hold on campus activities, that we would combine for the first time ever. So our campaigns ran simultaneously with one landing page for people to donate to, and all the communications were shared with everybody on all the campuses simultaneously. So we coordinated a combined campaign, and leading up to that, we did keep with one tradition, which was challenging our officers and directors, so our executive leadership, and their campaign as a jumpstart ran the 1st through the 5th. And traditionally, we have driven for 100% participation. That's been a huge thing that we've asked of them. But this year, because we don't know what their home environments were like, because we don't know if they maybe had a spouse, they may still be employed at Premera, but their spouse may have been impacted with employment situations because of COVID. We didn't drive so hard for that 100% participation, and we still got 90% participation from our leadership, which is huge. It's excellent that we have those executives stepping up to the plate and leading by example when they're able to. And from just that group of executives, we were able to raise almost $300,000. And then the all-employee campaign kicked off on the 8th, and it ran through the 20th. And the thing that we always look at when we set our campaign dates is making sure that at least one payday is included within the campaign, because if there are people who are one-time givers that they just want to give one chunk as opposed to the payroll deduction, hitting them on a pay date is usually a really good way to make sure that you're going to get a little bit of dollars out of them. Next slide. So how we did that during the campaign, because it was all virtual, like Debbie said, was that it just had to be one after another of electronic events. And so we utilized Teams at Premera Blue Cross. So we held a kickoff event, which our CEO, Jeff Rowe, led for us, which again, and I think I'm echoing maybe 3 or 4 people on this, your executive leadership and especially your CEO do set the tone for your campaign. So connect with them, let them know what you're working on, let them know what the goals are, bring in somebody from the United Way to share with them the importance of the value that your company's buy into this is. And once they're on board, people will follow the leadership. So we had him kick off, and we had both the Spokane and the Snohomish County United Way CEOs join us, which was fantastic. So great leadership kicking us off. Then we held spotlight events, which is something we do at a Premera. It's like a town hall or maybe a panel style conversation where we brought in both one for Spokane and one for Snohomish, and their CEOs joined us, as well as agencies. And that was mentioned before too, having people who are impacted by the dollars donated sharing their story or sharing the impact that that's giving is huge. It ties that personal personal connection. So if you're able to do something like that, be it in person or electronic, totally great. And we use those as a Q&A option time as well. And then we received daily updates from the United Way. So talking about your United Way representative, that person connected with us daily, let us know where we were on dollars and donors, and we kept that posted on a website where people could see ongoing how we were doing with our fundraising. And then the email blasts, they weren't every day. We were very thoughtful about how frequently they went out, but they were strategically timed throughout the campaign to remind people, please donate. And if you didn't, if you weren't choosing to donate through United Way, you could click that you are opting out and then you wouldn't receive any more emails. But people who donated would have their gift given, and then they would also not receive those reminder emails. And we can hit the next slide. And then what our outcomes were shocking. And Debbie, you're more than welcome to chime in. We raised the highest dollar amount that we ever had in Premera's history. We'd been holding pretty close at the $500,000 level. And this year, including our corporate match, we hit that over $700,000 in giving, which was, like Debbie said, we didn't know what we were expecting. And that was giant. And the thing that was not shocking to us was the reduced number of donors. So less people, understandably, were able to give. And if you do the math on that real quick, it basically means those that gave more. And I think that that's something that you can expect, that people who are able to be generous are going to be extra generous because they really understand the need and trust that United Way is great stewards of those funds and will do important impact with them. So those are the things that we learned from, and the outcomes that we had. And I think Debbie might have one more sentence of wrap up on the next slide.
Yeah, so for all of you out there about to start your campaign, your most valuable resources are your United Way partners, Drew, Tim, Amanda, Kevin, all of your agencies. Spotlight them, bring them in and have them talk to your folks, your employees, and just let them tell the story, because once they start talking, everybody's heart's going out to them and they're digging in their pocketbooks. That's what we found. So definitely take advantage of all of the services that they will provide to you throughout your campaign. And we wish you a lot of luck.
Yeah, good luck. Thank you for letting us speak.
Okay, great. Thank you so much to you both. We really appreciate that insight. And even I am learning so much. I will add them to my great tips and tricks. Now with that, we are gonna pivot just a little bit, and we have MultiCare here with us, Samantha Mallett and Walter Neary, and they are gonna talk to us a little bit about their communication strategies during their campaign.
Great, thank you. So I think I'll begin, and then Samantha's ready to break in. If I go on, 1:30 or 2, she'll break in and save y'all. We really appreciated working with Spokane County United Way. You all really have your act together, and I'm not just saying that because you invited us, but you all as coordinators have access to a really smart group, and that's going to help you because of the way messaging has to roll out this year. Could you flip to the next slide, please? So there are essentially 3 different messaging architectures, and I'll just talk about that super briefly because Premera just gave you a great example of how to run a campaign. But in terms of the messaging you want to address to people, there kind of falls into 3 different categories. The first category is there is tremendous poverty and need. You should give to United Way. We talked about that at the beginning of the session. The second approach is you already know there's poverty and need. United Way is your smartest investment or one of your smartest investments. The third approach, which transcends them all in many ways, is, hi, I'm your manager. I donate to United Way. I think you should as well. That's super powerful, and whatever the reason of the manager, that's extremely effective with employees. So we have at a healthcare system a lot of employees who interact with folks who are homeless, disadvantaged. They already know there's a lot of need. We actually have a fund at MultiCare that we raise money for to help meet needs that are not met by insurance. So in some ways, we are our own competitor to the United Way campaign. What we emphasize is United Way is the smartest return on investment, or one of the smartest returns on investment for your dollar. So you see a video represented there, and by the way, the link is public. Bill Robertson, our CEO, said, "This is the year to give." His word means a lot to folks, and so he underscored what a lot of our managers were saying. We had a raffle specifically for large donors, $500 or more, where you could win an iPad either midway through the campaign or at the end of the campaign. And we were trying to encourage managers to donate. And then we used video and images to try to emphasize that United Way offers just a great opportunity to get a major return with the 37 or whatever groups that they coordinate. Sam, do you want to talk about the local approach in Spokane?
Okay, thank you, Walter. You didn't go too long like you thought you would. So, of course, obviously we have our system approach, which Walter touched on, that had the video from the CEO, but Multicare is so geographically spread out. You know, we have the whole Puget Sound region, then we have in the Northwest. And so a lot of times it's hard, it's easy to get lost in just a big system-wide campaign. So my goal over here as internal communications specialist for in the Northwest was to really bring this campaign to home. Spokane is small. We all know people who have been struggling these past 7 months. We all know which organizations it is in the community that's helping them. And United Way was a really great way to lead them to a way to help the people they know. So part of my job is I create 4 monthly newsletters and that reach all the different business units. And so as soon as we found out the campaign was starting, you know, I had reminders going out in those saying the campaign's coming, just getting that in their head. And then links to important information, how to donate. And then what it really boiled down to was putting a face behind their money. So shout out to Kevin Mead, who is my lifesaver when it comes to United Way information. He is a great resource, and so is the whole United Way team for getting videos and photos and data and putting together a whole list of the organizations that United Way supports so that our employees can look at that list and see people they might recognize in that video of handing out the donations, the drive-through donation things that you guys did. Just putting a real face behind that, I think really helped get our employees more engaged in what was going on. And then of course, following up with the thank you to them, because like Primera did, we also had a record-breaking campaign this year. So this is a time when, you know, a lot of our own employees were struggling, but they saw that struggle in their community as well, and they stepped up because we were able to put a face behind it. And I think that is something that I would recommend to all of you campaign coordinators going into next year. While right now is so crazy and, you know, we're still in the midst of a pandemic and we're just adjusting to a new reality really, right now is also the time to be finding those stories. And my background's in news, so I'm all about like telling stories. So now is the time though to be finding those people, finding those stories that you can highlight next year. So when you go to your employees, you can say, hey, remember last year when you donated a couple dollars? Here's the person you actually helped. And there's still people who are going to be struggling next year based on what's happened these past 7 months. That need is still there. So I encourage you all to keep those creative juices flowing all the time. So that way next year, if it is last minute like Primera and like we had as well, where it's like 5 days beforehand, we're doing this, you already have some kind of content built up to do your messaging based off of. Walter, do you have anything else?
Oh, I think, I mean, I'm looking forward to the exchange where people are going to talk about what they'll do differently. But I will say that a lot of United Ways don't really have expertise in saying what they actually accomplish. Spokane does. They've got the videos of the PPE giveaway, for example. So you've got some great assets, and I wish you all the best.
All right. So one thing that we want to touch on that a lot of companies have come up with, and thank you guys, Multicare, for going over everything, and also Primera. It helps to hear from people who have actually done things so far this year, and to know that it turned out so successful. One thing that a lot of companies have talked about is rollover campaigns. They allow your donors to continue last year's pledge. So you, in speaking with your CEO or your higher ups within your organization, it's something that you can mention to them that there is the opportunity to be able to create a rollover so that individuals, if you're fearful that they won't be asked during this time and this virtual landscape of work, that they can be able to just continue their gift on to the next year. I do encourage as a best practice that you at least present to the employees and say within an email to say, we are keeping your campaign or your gift at the same level, or if they do want to increase and whatnot. And we can talk about that offline. And we can send that list of last year's donors, the amounts they pledged and their designations, campaign coordinator, CEO, email staff, letting them know that they're hosting a rollover campaign, and update and return the final list to your United Way contact. So let us know who actually ended up doing that as they rolled over. And with that, it's kind of we were going to do a breakout question, but we want to be respectful of everyone's time. And this is just the starting of a lot of information. There's so much that we can still go over to, and like both Premier and Multicare mentioned, we have a ton of resources that are available to you guys that will be able to really help out with getting that message across. There's so much data. Andre Mizichenko has given us some great graphs that show you guys the impact of what United Way has done. There's incredible videos on our website, a whole list of different resources that you guys can use in being able to reach out to individuals within your company. So please, if this sparked an idea and you guys would like to walk through it, reach out to Amanda or myself, and we'd be happy to help out, set up some time to go through things. We can go as deep as you would like. We can be very efficient. And we just really are thankful for you guys to be able to help out with everything this year. And I think Amanda is going to wrap us up.
Perfect. Well, to dovetail on what Drew said, thank you all for taking the time to spend with us today to learn these tips and tricks. I know for many of you, it's one more thing in your day, but we so appreciate what you're doing to give back to our community. I know that one thing that we're missing in all of this is the opportunity to network. I know normally we do these in person. We would love to share contact information amongst the attendees here. So if you are not comfortable with that, please let me know. And it would be just email addresses, just so you can still network after this and continue to build ideas off of each other, because I think you'll find that we are great resources, but sometimes it's nice to hear what other campaigns are doing.